This is Lewis Bryon Football Talk, and I'm joined by St Albans footballer Ken Charles. Ken, firstly, thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm all good, mate. How are you?
Yes, I'm great, thanks. As I mentioned, playing for St Albans now, after bagging, what was it? I think it was 12 goals and 4 assists for Banbury last year.
Yep.
Yeah, so firstly, how's pre-season been?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good to get back in the team environment after a long break and train on your own and stuff. Obviously, pre-season's always the toughest part of the season, but luckily for us, it hasn't been too much endless running. We've done quite a good amount of ball work. As much as it's been intense, it's all been very much closely related to football, so you can't complain.
Yeah, I'm sure it's well underway now, probably a couple of weeks in. But what does a pre-season for a National League, what is it, National League South side look like?
Yeah.
What's a week looking like?
Yeah, obviously we're training Tuesday, Thursdays, at the minute Saturdays as well until the friendlies kick in. So yeah, it's we start off with a mixture of warming up and we get into a bit of running, nothing crazy, but just like sort of box to box and stuff like that. And then at St Albans, it's been quite technical. The session's quite technical. We've gone to the balls pretty early in all the sessions. I think that's how we want to play football this season. We want to get the ball down and open teams up. So I think the manager's putting a lot of emphasis on that side of the game, which is good. But that's not the same for every club. I've been at clubs where you don't see balls for the first 2 weeks. So I think it just depends on the club you're at.
Yeah, it definitely depends. And I've seen football slowly transition over the last 5-10 years away from that sort of old school style of pre-season. Is it more a thing now of you getting that work done during the off season so you can get the balls out from day one in pre-season?
I think that's a big part of it. I think probably 15 years ago-ish, players would really go all out in the off season, come back needing to lose weight and stuff like that. So the first few weeks is literally just let's get everyone's weight back down. Let's get everyone back to a good base level fitness. But I think nowadays everyone looks after themselves during the off season. Everyone's sort of still running, still training. So everyone comes back at a good base level. So I think the smart thing to do from a management perspective would be, okay, everyone's come back at a base level. Let's try and use this time, because pre-season's doesn't last forever. Let's try and use this time to start implementing the way we want to play when the season starts. So I think that's a huge part.
Yeah, I agree. So has there been, like you said, you're getting the balls out quite early and it's very technical. Do you think there will be a shift at some point where it gets even more tactical leading into the season, or have you already started doing that sort of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all been quite technical until Saturday just gone. We started doing a bit more patterns of play and stuff like that, because our first friendlies tonight, I think we've got friendlies now every Tuesday and Saturday until the week before the season. So I imagine when you're playing games, that obviously takes quite a bit of a load. So in between that, it's going to be a lot more. There'll be obviously a lot of technical work, but we'll be talking a lot more about the games just gone and how we want to improve in the upcoming games.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always know, from experience with pre-season, a lot of the boys want to come back and almost prove to the other players and the coaching staff that they're the fittest. And there's usually a few tests at the start of pre-season. Was that the case for you? And does it get competitive between the lads?
We didn't actually do any of those running testing this preseason. We done a couple bits of like muscle testing and that just to see if anyone's got any weak points and stuff like that. But we didn't do any of like bleep tests and that sort of stuff. So luckily for us.
Yeah, that's good news, eh?
Yeah.
Just talk about your move. From what I understand, it was quite a late move. Was that correct?
Late-ish. Obviously, I know players that still haven't sorted clubs, so it's not the latest, but obviously it was kind of just right before the start of pre-season. So kind of late in the sense that the whole off season, you haven't got a club, you don't actually know what's going to happen. I was mentally prepared to go back to start pre-season on my own, and start training on my own, without a club, because I wasn't going to rush going into a club this season. Luckily this came about and it ended up being a good platform for me and a good opportunity. But yeah, for a long time I wasn't sure where I was going to be.
Yeah, you mentioned there that you were mentally prepared. Did it affect your off season and your mentality, sort of not thinking you may not have a club going into pre-season, but you know that you hadn't got one at that point? Did it affect how your off season looked?
Yeah, I think I've had a couple of experiences of this kind of situation before now, so I think I dealt with it quite well this off season. I think before I'd been in situations where I was quite anxious about where I was going to be, and that just affects you because you're thinking about it every day. You're quite worried about, you know, is this club going to call? Is this, you know, where you're going to be? And you have conversations, and then perhaps you end up a bit more desperate. And I don't think that's a good place for a player to be. I think the player's got to sort of know their value, understand, you know, what they deserve almost, and then from that position be patient and just know that the right opportunity will come. Because I could have jumped into stuff like 2 weeks into the off season, a month into the off season, but they wouldn't have been right. But perhaps if I was in a state of panic or anxiety about where I was going to be, maybe I would have thought, oh, let me just take this, and then the better offer at the end wouldn't be on the table anymore. So for me, I kept quite a structured routine. I just carried on as like basically nothing changed. Obviously, I took a couple of weeks off from all types of training as the season finished, just to give myself like a physical and mental break. And then I started training again, started doing a bit in the gym, started working on some weaknesses on the pitch and stuff. And it was just the structure was just there. Like there wasn't any type of, it wasn't affected by the fact that I didn't have a club sorted. So, but that comes from the experience of previous summers where I've been in a similar situation.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, the worst thing you want to do is panic in that, don't you? And then maybe get a move which isn't right for you or isn't the level you want to be at. So that's credit to you and credit to having that mentality, I suppose, from the experience.
Yeah.
In terms of the off season, you said you had a couple of weeks to rest and it doesn't really change much. By the end, do you feel fully fit? Like, do you feel ready to go? And then it's more the ball work? Or do you still in pre-season need to get yourself another gear, another level up? Obviously, no match time, but whereabouts are you feeling going into the first day of pre-season?
Yeah, I think first day of pre-season, I personally felt good. Like I felt like I was prepared for whatever the type of session we was gonna do. Now pre-season still a chance to go up a gear because we haven't played a game since, you know, the end of April. Match fitness is completely different to like training sharpness and that sort of stuff. So there's no doubt that once the game starts, those will feel a bit tough, and like as they go on, you know, I'll find my feet and stuff. But definitely going into pre-season, I think my base level was there, and I was physically in decent shape.
Yeah, cool. And again, I just want to touch one more thing on pre-season. So, you know, you mentioned sort of the type of work you've been doing with the team, but what is like if you mapped out the week? I mean, National League, are you full time?
We're part-time.
Part-time. So what
Yeah.
what does your training times and days look like at the moment?
So with the team, we train Tuesday, Thursday evenings, and
Yeah.
the games will start up on Saturdays now as well. And then obviously from a personal perspective, I try to get in as much like either individual sessions, one-to-one sessions, or like group sessions with some of the other, you know, National League South players I know in and around my area, just to keep as many sessions going. You know, my ambition is to play as high as possible, and I know that to do that, I've got to keep up with the guys, you know, who are 1, 2, 3 leagues higher. And if they're training at a full-time rate, I've got to try and keep that up somehow. So across the week, in between those Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'd say usually Mondays and Fridays, I'm doing something, some type of football session as well. And then, yeah, that keeps me quite sharp.
Yeah, absolutely. And now touching on St Albans and almost comparing it, not comparing it, but the differences between St Albans and Banbury. I know it's still very early and you've only been training there a couple of weeks, and I'm sure there's not too much tactical stuff going on, as you mentioned. But have you noticed any real differences, maybe with little bits the managers said about the style of play or the demands on you or the team?
Yeah. Well, the first big difference is obviously a lot closer to home for me. On top of that, I think from the get-go, I can tell this club and this team is quite ambitious in terms of our targets for this season. I'm not gonna spill all of that, but we're quite ambitious. We're aiming to be, you know, right at the top end of the league, and that's obviously a difference from where I've come. Yeah, ambition from the start is literally we want to be winners. So that's a nice environment to be in, because I'm that type of person as well. You know, from a personal perspective, I want to be right up there in terms of goal scorers and stuff like that. So being in a team that suits that ambition, that matches that same ambition as me, is definitely positive.
Yeah, completely. And I mean, it's easy for managers or people to say, yeah, our ambition is to win the league. You know, it's easy for me. I could go in and manage a team and say that.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between saying it and then seeing almost the actions that show you that show you from the coaching staff and the players around that is actually their ambition?
Yeah, absolutely. I've not been in teams, but I've heard of teams that from the get-go, you know, their aim was to win the league or to be in the playoffs, and have ended up in relegation battles, or have ended up like just about surviving. So there's a big difference between saying it and doing it. I think one thing about St Albans is for the last few years they have been literally right up there, and the squad is quite similar. The gaffer is the same, so the core of the squad is pretty much a squad that's been successful over the last couple of years, and they've just added in a few key areas. So straight away you can see the quality in the squad, from both CVs but also on the training pitch, and the standard of training is quite high in terms of like the technical sessions we're doing and how they translate to how we're trying to play as well. You know, it's not random. So I can definitely see small glimpses of higher standards of training, and a team that wants to push on. But like you said, it's early days. We'll still have to see how the friendlies go and how we're shaping up come the start of August.
Yeah, so it seems like it's more the belief. The belief is the real belief is there because of the recent performances in the leagues.
Yeah, and that goes a long way. Just knowing, like, being in a setup where mentally you go into games expecting to win. Sometimes that's the difference, because there's not that much, like the standard across the league is quite decent. Like there's not really, like, you might get one or two teams that are nowhere really near it, but in between that, everyone's good and everyone can hold their own. So sometimes it's literally just one team knows that they're going to find a winner at some point in the game, and that can be all the difference.
Yeah, completely agree. And I just want to talk about now your personal. I mean, you touched on a bit with the team goals, and the ones you're willing to share. But in terms of your personal goals for the season, we'll say, do you have any that you'd like to say, or like on your mind?
Obviously, as a striker, I want to get as many goals as I can. I definitely want to be up there in terms of goal scorers in the league, right up there. I've obviously got like mental specific targets as well for goals and stuff, but I think the best way to be is to take it game by game, week by week, because it's a long season. This is a very long season. You know, 46 games plus however many cup games if you go on a cup run. So like last game, I think last season I racked up 50 appearances. And you soon learn that that's a long time. You know, you go through ups and downs during that season as well. You go through times where you're really performing and there's times where you're not. So I think obviously you have to have clear goals and targets for what you want to achieve, but the immediate focus is on the short term and the the immediate term goals. So right now I'm focusing on getting as fit as I can for the start of the season. And once the season starts, it'll literally be game by game. I usually go like, okay, it's August. We've got, 5 or 6 games. Can I get 3 or 4 goals in that time? And then if you achieve that, you move that, great, you move on. If you haven't, you look at why you didn't achieve that, or, did I miss any chances that could have converted, or did I actually get the service I needed? Those are the ways I look at my targets. I try and break them down into small bits like that, because you can't score 25 goals straight away. You've got to score 4 goals and then 5 goals in the next month, and then maybe 3 goals. So I think that's the best way to look at it.
Yeah, that sounds good, and I wish you all the best for the season ahead. Just want to finish off talking a little bit about England and your thoughts on it. As I'm sure you know, I'm sure you watched the game. We just lost the final to Spain, the Euros final, 2-1.
Yeah.
And just announced now is Southgate has now resigned from the England manager job. What was your thoughts on the game and the overall tournament and also Southgate leaving?
I think Spain deservedly won. I think they were the best team in the tournament and on the day as well. I'd say I felt like we showed them a bit too much respect in the final. I think we have the players to go toe-to-toe with Spain. If we just go man for man in terms of players, I think we have the players to go for it and try and press high and get the ball up the pitch and play, good football. But I think we showed them a lot of respect. It can work. This is the thing. Like, I can't say that had we gone at them more positively, we would have definitely won, because sometimes you end up losing 3-0. And then the approach Southgate went for, we've seen it work time and again. The French usually have done it recently quite a bit, been quite conservative and have won tournaments. So I'm not going to sit here and say he was absolutely wrong, but it's just my opinion that I think England have the players to go into these games and try and be a lot more positive. So I felt that from that point, it was a bit disappointing. But, a final against the Spanish, I don't think there's any shame in losing. They were a very good team.
Yeah, they certainly were the best team in the tournament, and fair play to them. And hopefully we can bounce back. But if we do in the next tournament, it won't be with Gareth Southgate. What are your thoughts on that? Him resigning?
I feel like you could see it coming, because he's contemplated resigning for a long time. I would have liked to have seen him go one more though, definitely, because I feel like he's got so close now. 2 Euros finals back to back. In that time, he's got a World Cup semi-final as well. Like, anyone can say, you can say all you want about him, but he has been the most successful England manager in the last God knows how long. So I don't think, like, we're not a country that just wins tournaments. We're not serial tournament winners. So I think the expectation perhaps adds a lot of pressure, but the expectation, where does it come from? It's not like there's anything of recent to back that up. So I would have liked to have seen him go one more, just to see if he can bridge that gap, because it requires experience as well. He must be better for it because of those 2 losses. Like, he's got to learn from in one way or another. And sometimes those lessons you learn can be the difference in the next tournament. But obviously, he's decided to resign. I think everyone's got to respect that. The big question now is, who do you get in? And I'm not sure there's an obvious answer to that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's an immediate replacement who the fans would be excited with. And I can actually see him, maybe after a couple of managers don't work, see him coming back and sort of building that hype back up again and potentially getting the job done. Yeah,
absolutely. I think obviously it depends who comes in next and how well they do. But if anyhow we go back to going out at quarterfinals, last 16s, maybe even group stages and that, there will almost be an urge for him to come back, because it'll be kind of like you never knew what you had until you lost it. Everyone would be kind of like that mood he's created recently, where we can actually go into tournaments and guys can genuinely think we're going to win it. That's all Southgate, or that's all this recent Southgate plus the recent era of players. Like, before, No one went into tournaments thinking that. So as much as, you know, you can say there's been disappointment and stuff like that, people won't forget the feelings we've had in the last couple of tournaments where we've actually been able to watch England in a final and stuff like that and have hope. So anyhow we stop having hope in the next few years, then I can definitely see an urge for him to come back. But then the question will be, will he want to come back, or will he be enjoying the stress-free life?
Yeah, that's the thing. It is a lot of stress, isn't it? And I suppose time will tell. I don't know how quick they normally get managers in after one leaves for England, but certainly a lot changing at the moment for the England squad.
Definitely.
Ken, we'll leave it there. Good luck for the rest of the season, or the whole season, should I say? And hope you achieve your goals, and appreciate your time.
No worries, mate. Appreciate it. Thank you.